guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I can do an update or part 2 to a very popular video I did yesterday, which is titled, My Narcissistic Ex Cost Me $1.6 Million for a 5-Year Marriage. And guys, let me tell you, I did not expect that video to do as well as it did. One, because it was 47 minutes long, and that's a hell of a commitment for you guys to watch, and I appreciate that. And two, it's not exactly the happiest tale. I mean, if I did a video about a guy who, I don't know, sent his wife to the streets because she demanded an open marriage, then I would expect those kind of numbers. You guys would all come pouring in for that kind of story. But this one, it's not exactly a happy story. But nonetheless, thank you, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. Here we are doing part 2. The guy, obviously, last night saw I did his story and probably stayed up half the night writing an update because you guys really wanted to know, you really wanted answers to a lot of questions about this guy, his situation, and obviously more things about her, his demon wife, or demon ex-wife. So he goes in this whole thing here, answering a lot of questions you guys asked in the comment section, telling more about what happened to her, where she's from. You're all speculating in the comment section where she's from. Well, we got the answers, and let me tell you, it's not where I thought she was from, and amongst many other things. So I'm going to go through this, and I don't need to do a recap because this is all fresh. You all know what happened, and if you found this video, go watch the first part. You'll see what happened. But nevertheless, here we go. He says, Hey SSM, thank you for covering my story. It was great to finally share this with you and your fans. Thank you for writing it. Thank you for having the balls to do it, because I'm sure it wasn't easy. I really appreciate the vast majority of the responses from your fans, and I wanted to respond to some of the questions and comments that they all had. I used my real name on YouTube, so I didn't want to respond to their comments online. No problem, man. Your secret is safe with me. To start, no one guessed the correct location of my ex. She was from, wait for it guys, Iran. She grew up in a wealthy family, going to top schools, and raised with servants and drivers. Her parents had lost most of their fortune when they left the country, but are still comfortably well off in Canada. So there you go. Everybody was speculating Eastern Europe, Southeast Asia, some parts of South America. Some of you guys said specific countries. I was wrong. I was thinking Eastern Europe, but nope, I did not think that part of the world. And let's not diss Iran. I know some people from Iran. They refer to themselves as Persian. Extremely nice people. And the girl I know, let me tell you, she's one of the most beautiful women I've ever known in my fucking life. So I can see how this dude was roped in. But anyhow, there you go, Iran. And she grew up extremely wealthy, servants, drivers. So is there any surprise about her entitled attitude? We ironically met when we worked at the same department at a bank in the anti-money laundering / anti-fraud division. You gotta be shitting me. That's where you met? That was her specialty? Miss Fraud herself? Well, it takes a criminal to catch one, huh? She was added to one of my teams to help train her into the role and help with my workload. For me, I did a lot of schooling, but was not a great student. Neither was I, dude. I fucked around in school, but I've done well for myself. I made my fortune by working really, really hard over the last several decades. I chose a very tough career path for myself and always worked a lot of unpaid overtime. Over the decades, my hard work allowed me to take tough roles and become very specialized in my field. Well, there are riches and niches, dude. I had always wanted to get married and have kids, but never found anyone. This was partially due to my busy work schedule. In my early 40s, I'd given up hope to meet someone, and then I met her. Yeah, you met the demon princess from Persia. My success did not come easily. Never does. In fact, I spent most of my 20s in school, working, and extremely poor living in my parents' basement. I saved every nickel and dime trying to scrape together to get a down payment for the first small house when I was 32. I made brown bagging my lunch, cooking all my dinners, and brewing my own coffee, a lifestyle that I still continue today. Being frugal when you are young can really help you get your first ring on the property ladder. First rung on the property ladder. There you go, guys. I tell you all the time, live beneath your means. Every month, try to have a profit. You have what you make from your paycheck or business profits, and you have your expenses to live. Have a profit, and that way that money can be used to one day be used for the down payment on a house or investment property, or put away an investment. And the younger you start, the better. And the younger you start living really frugal and finding ways to save money, you'd be amazed how that helps in the long run. So right here, what I tell you. I grew up in Canada, and here we have some of the most draconian divorce rulings, similar to California. There you go, Canada. Even with a prenup contract, it likely would have had very little legal weight. Further, when we got married, I only exposed myself to about $800,000 of risk, as the rest of my assets were, for the time being, protected. The narc, who was well aware of these other assets, maneuvered me into liquidating these in the first 2 years of our marriage. At that time, the marriage was looking relatively normal. My hand was sore from the smacks yesterday, so no smacks today. I know you're all disappointed, but he got him yesterday. We're now reviewing the past, and he knows he fucked up. Further, we were able to parlay my money and investments into real estate assets that greatly appreciated during our marriage. Well, at least that happened. During our marriage, my business also became extremely busy, and I was able to bill out for really high amounts for several years, helping to pay down some of the massive debt we incurred for the initial house purchase and the cottage purchase later on. Like I said in the original posting, I also found other ways to develop secondary sources of income like rental units and home and cottage renovations. This helped to increase our wealth prior to and during our marriage. However, these renovations were extremely tough on me, as I was often working 50-hour weeks and then working on all my weekends, nights, and days off. I once worked 108 days without taking a day off, and every day was from 10 to 12-hour work days. I remember several times getting home at 2 to 3 in the morning and having to be at work at meetings at 8:30 in the morning. Dude, I respect your grind, but sweet Lord, you gotta kill yourself. Let's not repeat that again. Work hard, but you got 108 days out taking a day off, and those kind of hours, you can work your way in an early grave. But she obviously didn't care. The narc never helped, rarely made me a meal, and made busy work to show that she was doing something to help. Yeah, help scam you. The narc was always focused on her own well-being. That's what narcissists do. She had a very high level of entitlement. Shocker. And I indulged her to attempt to keep her happy. I knew this was an issue during our marriage, but I hoped that this would improve after I finished up the renovations, when I had more time to enjoy our properties. No, she went in with a plan, dude. I'm sorry to say that. As far as her having other mental health issues in addition to narcissism, my best guess is that she may have had a borderline personality trait as well. You mean a borderline bitch trait? As she seemed to have other manic episodes, and would constantly shop and return purchases compulsively. I still find it hard to understand what was going on with her mentally, even after doing years of research. Dude, don't waste your time. Don't waste any more fucking time on her, aside from telling your story to help other dudes. She's gonna make yourself crazy. One of the key things people should know about any mental issues is that you need to be patient and evaluate your partner for 4 to 5 years prior to marriage. Says the guy who married her, I believe, after 6 months, or at least is engaged after 6 months. But he learned. This is why I tell you guys, if you're going to get married, years with her, right here. Because she can fake it for a long time, but eventually if she's a snake and a dishonorable person, they'll come out eventually. No matter how hard they try to mask that people, okay, no matter how hard they try the mask that people wear will inevitably slip after a couple of years, and you will need to test and evaluate your partner just like you would a used car or house purchase. I did miss several red flags prior to our marriage, and I also didn't keep my friends and family in the loop on these issues. That was a big mistake. I allowed the narc to pick fights with my friends, and I idiotically supported her. This alienated from most of my old friends and drove a wedge with them, as some have never healed. That is really unfortunate, but sadly you made your bed, now you gotta lie in it. I mean, for these friends that you really burnt the bridges with, I'd recommend, if you haven't done so already, say your piece, apologize for what you did, say, hey, look, you know what, she pulled her shit, but I still did it, and I'd really love to reconnect, have a beer sometime, and put the offer out there, and move on. And if they reach out, they reach out, and if they don't, they don't, and you learn a tough lesson, but you can make new friends. And it's tough, man, but it is what it is. Unless you have the time stone and you're the sorcerer supreme, you cannot go back in time and fix everything. You can only learn from the mistakes. You also need to know that in the early stages of the relationship, the narcissist love bombs you. They do everything to be agreeable. They mirror you. They tell you everything you want to hear. You think that this is the best, most compatible person you've ever gone out with. You want to believe that this is the perfect person that you have finally fallen in love with. You want to make it work, and they sell you on a beautiful vision of your future life together. That's the way described in the first story. This is very hard to understand for people who haven't been through the narcissistic abuse. They call this love bombing and being in the narcissistic fog. You see a few red flags, but you choose to ignore them as there are even bigger green flags all around you. The narc isolates you from friends and family, so you have no one to provide you critical feedback on warnings or issues or risks. And even if you did, you would doubt them because you've been love bombed by that gal. I made the comparison to Prince Harry and Meghan Satan Markle. But Prince Harry, he's his own goddamn man, and he's responsible for his actions. And I am just waiting for it that she kicks into the curb. I'm waiting for it. It's going to happen. I naively believed that if I just roll out the red carpet for her, giving her a beautiful life, wonderful house, cottage, great vacations, restaurants, etc., she would be happy. Anyone normal would love that life. Yeah, anyone normal. After separation, with regards to the theft of chattels from the house, I couldn't legally prevent her from coming to the house and taking whatever she wanted. After all, everything is considered shared property. If I had blocked her access or changed the locks, I would have been kicked out of the house, as per my lawyer's instructions. The lawyers and police had no power to interfere, and the judges tell you just to include this in the final settlement. God almighty. In Canada, and I'm not surprised you're in Canada based on the story you told me. In Canada, when people take large amounts of money prior to separation, they cannot call it fraud, as the money technically belongs to both parties. They call it taking in advance in separation, and this is normally part of the settlement process. In my case, however, the narc strenuously fought this process, arguing that the cash was simply spent during the marriage, and therefore there would be no adjustment to the net division of assets. Again, she was working in the fraud and money laundering department. How interesting. If I was to duplicate this, I would need to find some proof of the missing cash, and this led to a 4-year legal battle where I progressively was able to secure more and more financial disclosure until I was able to collapse her case. Over several years, she just contradicted her prior testimony, and we were able to exploit these inconsistencies and demonstrate this for the judges. Her lies eventually caught up with her and allowed me to win the case. The narc had absolutely every angle covered. She was always 3 steps ahead of me. She'd been waiting years to spring her trap and was gleefully prepared. Her glee didn't last for long, though. Was your ex-wife the daughter of Darth Sidious? I mean, God almighty. The only thing she didn't do is shoot electricity from her fingernails. After separation, she used every avenue to harass and punish me. She put the laundry on at 1 o'clock in the morning next to my bedroom to keep me up at night. She would interrupt my executive update meetings when I worked from home. She stole everything that she could get her hands on. It was like having a family of rabid raccoons loose in your house. The false police reports and constant harassment, I believe that she wanted me to off myself so she can get everything. Sadly, I believe that, man. She even threatened one of our basement apartment tenants with eviction if he wouldn't provide post-dated checks to her. She had no right to this rent, and she had abandoned the house and refused to pay her portion of the property costs. She made the tenant believe that her brother-in-law beside her was an attorney and that the attorney would kick him out if he didn't immediately comply. The tenant later provided testimony in court of this behavior. Good. I feel bad for your tenant, man. After the theft of my locked filing cabinet, I moved a lot of my remaining things to my parents' place. Good. I was wondering about that. Or a safe deposit box or something. This theft mostly occurred in the first 2 months of our separation, and my lawyer couldn't help me with this even after 2 court appearances attempting to stop her. Early on in our separation, I was completely unprepared for the level of harassment and abuse that she would throw at me. Later on, I got a GoPro and videotaped some of her antics to discourage her. Good. I was wondering, I think I mentioned that. I was like, shit, you should have gotten some video cameras and recorded her or something. He says, maybe I'll send you a copy of these. Dude, please send me some footage of her doing her bullshit. Oh, please. Her family was certainly aware of the advance on separation, fraud, between the narc and her sister. But from my understanding, only her sister participated in ripping me off. Close to the end of the marriage, one of the family friends gave me an indicator that confirmed my suspicions, and has helped me make the decision to get separated. In the last 3 years of my marriage, I constantly thought about getting a divorce. However, this was going to devastate me financially, and I had a naive hope that the person who I married would return. Number one, she destroyed you anyway. Number two, that person was and it was an act. It was a con. Just to clarify, the amounts that my ex received was $1.15 million for the shared assets, $114,000 in credit card spending, $150,000 in missing cash, $5,000 for Chatels, and my legal costs were over $80,000. I recovered $90,000 in the lawsuit, so she cost me a total of $1.41 million. Jesus. Well, bro, as I said at the end of the video, and I'll say at the end of this one, you have the work ethic and the drive and the skills and the brains to make it up and more. It's a bitch. I'm not saying it's not, but you can do it. And you can show her. And then maybe I can't even say what I want to say. I'll get thrown off YouTube, but you get the point. Things that could happen to her. I ain't gonna say it. This rough divorce was pretty awful and really impacted me, but it had a much more significant impact on the narc. Now we're getting where we want to hear here, guys. She has barely worked in the last 4 years. Well, she has over $1 million, but then again, she'll piss it away. I suspect the divorce proceedings had an impact on this, as the court records are also publicly available to anyone who did a search on our names. Oh, please send me her name. So anyone doing a simple reference check would see that the narc was being sued, and why she was being sued. Banks and insurance companies don't like dishonest people working for them. So she can't get employment. The problem is she'll just find some other sucker to do the same bullshit to. Further, this caused a huge amount of emotional and financial strain to her. Her boyfriend also didn't stick around. She was conning you, and he's conning her. She was milking you, and he was obviously milking her. When things obviously stopped, he's like, see ya. In that sense, what goes around comes around. In the final court appearance, the narc was making outrageous demands to the judge to try not only continue spousal support, but to also greatly increase it due to her low income over the last several years. Everyone, including her own attorney, was flabbergasted at her attitude, especially considering that now we had a solid proof that she had been repeatedly lying about the missing cash. We had found almost an extra $65,000 in one of her accounts. The judge sorted her out with a lot of persuasion. I remember in the other story, he said the judge was yelling at her, quite loud. You do not want to piss off a judge. The courts were inherently unfair for men, or are inherently unfair for men, and there is a clear bias in how they treat cases like this for men versus women. You're preaching to the choir, dude. For example, the courts are much more likely to grant court orders to women who have been ripped off. For me, I need solid evidence first. They also seem to award damages and legal costs to women. In my case, I wasn't able to recover any of my legal costs in the final settlement amount. I've heard many different cases of women also being ripped off with their husbands moving money around to different business accounts and family member accounts. In almost every instance, it is almost impossible to prove or fairly recover the missing money. These cases are very expensive, time-consuming, and extremely hard to win. Yes, I only got $90,000 back from her, which is a small fraction of what she took from me. However, it was worth it to run up her legal costs, deprive her of her happiness for 4 years, and win that small amount back. I would never have forgiven myself if I had just let her go with all the money she took and the treatment that she gave me. I won the lawsuit. It was a victory, and I'm happy about that. Hey, it made things difficult for her, and you won that. You had that win. Great. And again, as you said, she's having a hard time finding work because this is all public record. And you're right, banks and insurance companies, especially now, don't look very happy on those that fraud or potential fraud or suspicious fraud. I had several large advances over her in the legal battle. I had truth and evidence on my side. Well, sadly, because you're a guy, that sometimes doesn't matter. I had more money than her to throw at the lawyers, and I was very good at forensic investigations. I had the fortitude to spend over a year forensically auditing her financial records, and I was able to find a single series of transactions that occurred 1.5 years prior to our divorce that I was able to use to secure additional orders and financial disclosures that slowly unraveled her lies. Always follow the money, guys. All of her money movements were done in cash, and she only ever made one mistake in the paper trail, and I found that record. To be honest, I'm embarrassed about writing this record. I agree with the fans saying that I'm an idiot for falling for this and staying in the marriage. All I can say is, you're right. But when you have to end your marriage and give away a huge amount of your money, it's an extremely difficult decision you are giving up. Like I said, what's done is done. You don't have a time machine. You can't go back in the past to fix it. All you can do, man, is share your story as you are, and you're helping dudes out. I mean, I know you're taking the shit in the comment section, but you're helping other dudes out around the world. And guys are going to hear this, and you may very well have a guy in a bad marriage right now. This is motivating him to get out. Or a guy that's dating a gal that has traits like this, the love bombing, and he's going to be like, wait a second here. Maybe I'm not going to rush into an engagement with her, or I'm going to take my time with her, or I'm going to kick her to the curb. Your story helps. He says here, you are giving up. Weekends at the lakefront cottage that you spent 4 years renovating and landscaping. Job stability due to the divorce. I normally work 50-hour weeks. Your primary residence, which also needs to be sold, and needing to find a new place to live. Half of the shit tells. You'll likely have to take on a lot more debt and have higher costs due to spousal support right before COVID. Massive disruptions in your life, huge legal costs, huge emotional turmoil, years of rebuilding your life. And that, gentlemen, is a very good reason why if you're going to get married one day, like you said in the beginning, 4 to 5 years with her, easily. Some guys are like, that's ridiculous, SSM. Okay, don't listen to me. Years listening, years getting to know her. What she's like with money, ding, ding, ding. What her family's like, ding, ding, ding. Does she like your family and treat them well and your friends well and get along with them, or does she cause problems? All these things that you can discover in 4 to 5 years, amongst many other things. For example, after a long legal battle to force the sale of the primary residence to myself, I lost my job 1 month prior to the closing date. If my lending institution had checked this prior to the closure, I would have lost my house and deposit. Yep, that would have happened. I was not able to find another job for 10.5 months during COVID. This put a huge financial strain on me. When it rains, it pours, dude. When I finally got reemployed at a large bank, my white male manager told me that his executives had forbade him to hire a white male for any of the roles. In other words, they want to have a very diverse bunch of people working for them. And I got no problem with a diverse group if it helps you. But if you're cutting away qualified, good people purely to look a certain way to the world, it's foolish. And so many businesses are doing that. And it'll be to their detriment. Fortunately for me, there was no one else who had that right skill set available for this role. We were both pretty steamed about this, but unfortunately this stuff never makes it into the mainstream media. Of course it doesn't, because if it did, they'd be labeled as racists or all these other ridiculous things. He says, you're right, SSM. I'm back on my feet again and slowly working off my debt. I'm getting out with friends, working hard, and putting the stress behind me. I made a lot of good friends the last few years. I'm cultivating these friendships and getting out to enjoy life. I'm still pondering dating, but I don't feel ready yet. Smack! I said I wasn't going to smack you, but now I changed my mind. No fucking dating for a while. You need to be back to like you were in college. You're brown bagging it and living cheap. You can be on your grind busting your ass and then living cheap so you can have the extra way to pay down the debts from Satan's mistress, your ex-wife, and get that taken care of and start rebuilding things. And then down the road when you're wiser and stronger and you've watched 1,000 of my videos and other channels and read some books and all that, and you're getting there, then maybe you can consider dating if you need to get some ass or something. But then again, you can just hire a pro. But no, I forbid you for dating for a while. And you guys, you can forbid him in the comment section too. And you're never getting fucking married again, or I'll kill you. Shit, I shouldn't have said that on YouTube. As for pets, no thanks. I'll leave that to the crazy cat ladies. Dude, I'm a crazy cat man. I was reading this story right here this morning, my Dunkin' Donuts coffee in one hand and my black and white cat in the lap the whole time. Thanks for all the well wishes from your fans. I really appreciate all the support. I hope this has helped you, or at least has kept you entertained. It's helped, guys, and it's certainly kept us entertained. So we're looking at 24 minutes now, so much better than 47 minutes. But bro, I'm glad to hear from you. And what's done is done. Can't change the past. So just keep doing what you're doing. hanging out with your friends, self-improvement, learning your mistakes. You don't work out, join a gym. If you don't join a gym, get a bike or something. Get some exercise. You'll feel better. Work on your health. Work on you, your friends, your family. I hope you can rekindle the old friendships, but maybe those bridges are burned. There's no way going back. It is what it is. And you can. You have the skills, the drive, the work ethic, and the ability to live cheap to pay down those debts, rebuild. And in 10 years, and I know it seems like, good God, 10 years, you could have way more freaking money than you did before that was lost. And meanwhile, Lord knows what happens to her. Because remember, you told me flat out in the beginning what drew you in, aside from her physical beauty, was the love bombing. Well, she's older now, so she's not as attractive. And I know what those Persian women look like. Like the family I told you about that I've known for years, really nice people, like them a lot. The girl that I knew, she was the wife of my buddy. I don't use the word beautiful very often, but let me tell you, think like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but we've all seen Aladdin, the movie Aladdin from like 30 years ago, Disney. Think Princess Jasmine. That's this girl. I met her in her 20s. She's in her 30s now, had a kid, but still she looks good. So I can see how you're roped in by that, those Persian gals. But then the love bombing, but she doesn't have those looks anymore. I'm telling you right now, she's older. So, but sadly, she'll probably find some other sucker. I mean, I think, is it Rupert Murdoch that got married now just for the 4th or 5th time? And he's like 200 years old. So she'll find some old guy to suck her, but we'll see what happens. Just keep me posted on how things are going. Let me know down the road. I really appreciate it. And yeah, you can send me some footage of her doing her crazy shit in your house. I won't show anybody. I'll just mention it and let the guys know in the comment section. So I wish you well. All right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Let this guy know what you think. Again, give him some praise, or if you want to give him some smacks, whatever. But I think you got enough typewritten smacks in the comment section yesterday. So let's give this guy a shout out. He's really trying to rebuild his life and help others through his screw up. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.